My dad said, "We all agreed. You're not invited to Thanksgiving." So I quietly removed my name from the deed of their 1.2 house, cut off their SSK monthly allowance, and went silent. Days later, they called non-stop, 102 missed calls. The phone call came on a Tuesday. I was standing in my kitchen, the one with the marble countertops I'd saved 2 years to afford, the one with the window that catches the afternoon light just right, when my father's name lit up my screen. I remember thinking it was strange. Dad never called on Tuesdays. Tuesdays were his golf days, sacred and inviolable, the kind of routine that had structured his retirement like a religion. I answered on the third ring. "Hey, Dad." There was a pause. Not the comfortable kind, the kind families earn after decades of knowing each other's breathing patterns. This was the pause before bad news, before confrontation, before the ground shifts beneath your feet and you realize you've been standing on a fault line all along. "Listen," he said. And I could hear my mother's voice in the background, a low murmur of either encouragement or warning. I couldn't tell which. "We need to talk about Thanksgiving." I set down the coffee I'd been drinking. It was still hot, steam rising in lazy spirals toward the ceiling fan. Later, I would remember that coffee getting cold on the counter, untouched, a small casualty of the moment everything changed. "Okay," I said. "What about it?" Another pause. Longer this time. In the silence, I could hear the clock on my wall, an antique piece I'd found at an estate sale in Vermont, one of those small victories of adult life that makes you feel like you've figured something out. Each tick seemed unnaturally loud. "We've all talked," Dad said finally, his voice carrying that particular tone of forced casualness that people use when they're about to hurt you and want to pretend they're not. "Your sister, your brother, your mother and me, we've all agreed. It's going to be a small gathering this year, intimate. And we think, well, we think it's best if you sit this one out." I didn't say anything. Couldn't really. The words were English, each one comprehensible on its own, but strung together like that they became a foreign language, something I needed time to translate. "You're not invited to Thanksgiving," I said slowly, testing the words in my mouth like they might mean something different if I said them myself. "It's not like that." "Then what's it like?" He sighed. I knew that sigh. It was the same one he'd given me when I was 16 and crashed his car. When I was 23 and got laid off. When I was 30 and my engagement fell apart. It was the sigh that said, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." The sigh that positioned his disappointment as my problem to solve. "You've been difficult lately, now," he said, "at the last few family gatherings. Your sister mentioned you made some comments at Easter that made her uncomfortable. Your brother feels like you're always judging his choices. Your mother. What did Mum say?" "Your mother agrees with us." "Not your mother said," I noticed. "Your mother agrees." As if she were a silent voter, a rubber stamp on someone else's decision. I pictured her standing next to him, hands clasped, nodding along, and something cold settled in my chest. "What comments at Easter?" I asked, though I already knew. My sister had made a joke about welfare recipients, the kind of casual cruelty that gets laughed off at family dinners. And I'd mentioned, gently, I thought, that maybe we shouldn't mock people for being poor. My brother had rolled his eyes. My father had changed the subject. And apparently, that had been noted, filed away, added to some invisible ledger of my offenses. "This isn't a trial," Dad said. "We're not going through a list. We just think it would be better for everyone if you took this year off. Let things cool down." Cool down from what? From the tension you bring, the words landed like stones. Each one deliberate, carefully chosen, impossible to misunderstand. I was the problem. I was the tension. I was the thing that needed to be removed for the family to function properly. I thought about arguing. I thought about asking who else agreed, about demanding specifics, about defending myself against charges that hadn't been fully articulated. But there was something in my father's voice, a finality, a decision already made and merely being announced, that told me it wouldn't matter. "Okay," I said. "Okay? Yeah, okay. I won't come to Thanksgiving." I could hear the relief in his exhale. "We appreciate you being understanding about this. It's just for this year. We can reevaluate for Christmas." "Sure," I said. "For this year." We said goodbye. No "I love you." No "talk soon." Just a clean disconnect. Professional, almost. Like we'd just concluded a business call. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after that, watching my coffee go cold. Watching the light change as the afternoon wore on. The clock kept ticking. The marble countertops gleamed. Everything looked exactly the same as it had 15 minutes ago. But something fundamental had shifted. Like the moment in a dream when you realize you're dreaming, and the whole landscape becomes suspect. I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving. My family, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, the ones who'd known me longer than anyone else on earth, had held a meeting about me. They'd discussed my flaws, my deficiencies, my failure to be the kind of person they wanted at their table. They'd voted, and I'd lost. I picked up my phone and opened my messages. The family group chat, the Caldwell crew. My mother had named it years ago with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for new puppies, was quiet. No one had mentioned the call. No one had warned me. No one had advocated for me. I scrolled up through the history. Months of messages. Birthday wishes and shared memes and updates about whose kid made honor roll. Pictures from my brother's vacation in Aruba, my sister's new deck renovation, my parents' anniversary dinner. And scattered throughout, my own contributions, fewer than theirs I noticed now, always slightly offbeat, never quite matching the tone. There was a message I'd sent 2 weeks ago, a news article about student loan forgiveness. I'd thought it was interesting. No one had responded. Before that, a joke about my mother's insistence on calling texting the emails. One laughing emoji from Dad. Radio silence from everyone else. Further back, a lengthy response to my brother's question about investment strategies, drawing on my professional experience in financial planning. He'd replied thanks, and then immediately asked my father the same question. I kept scrolling, months turning into years, watching the pattern emerge like a conspiracy hiding in plain sight. I was always slightly peripheral, always a half step out of sync, always tolerated rather than celebrated. When had I become optional? I couldn't sleep that night, couldn't eat, couldn't do anything except sit in my living room, staring at the wall where family photos hung. Photos I was increasingly realizing were more about obligation than affection. Around midnight, I walked to my home office and unlocked the filing cabinet where I kept important documents. It took me 20 minutes to find what I was looking for. A thick manila folder labeled Parents' Property. Inside was the deed to my parents' house. Not just any house, the house. The 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester, with the wraparound porch and the oak tree my grandfather planted in 1967. The house worth $1.2 million in today's market, maybe more. The house that had been in our family for 2 generations and was supposed to stay that way for a third. The house that had my name on it. I'd almost forgotten about that. It had been 8 years since the conversation. 8 years since my father called me into his study. The same room where he'd given me the talk when I was 12. The same room where he'd lectured me about responsibility and gratitude and family legacy and told me he wanted to add me to the deed. "You're the financially responsible one," he'd said. It was late 2016. I was 32, 3 years into my career as a financial advisor, finally stable after a rocky 20s. My sister was on her second divorce. My brother was between opportunities, a phrase we all use to avoid saying he'd been fired again. If something happens to us, you'll make sure everything is handled correctly. I'd been flattered, trusted, chosen. We'd gone to the lawyer together. His lawyer, a silver-haired man named Morton, who'd handled my parents' affairs since before I was born. Morton explained that by adding me to the deed, I'd become a joint owner with right of survivorship. My parents would retain full control during their lifetimes, but when they passed, the house would transfer directly to me without going through probate. I could then decide whether to keep it, sell it, or distribute proceeds to my siblings according to whatever arrangement we agreed upon. "It's cleaner this way," Morton had said, "avoids the estate getting tangled up, and it protects the property if there are ever any complications." He didn't specify what kind of complications. At the time, I'd assumed he meant legal challenges or estate disputes. Now, holding the deed in my hands at 1 in the morning, I wondered if he'd meant something else entirely. If he'd been trying to tell me, in his careful lawyer way, that my father was protecting this asset, using me to protect it. I read through the document. There it was. In formal legal language, the property legally belonged to Samuel James Caldwell, Margaret Ann Caldwell, and Rachel Elizabeth Caldwell. 3 names, 3 owners, equal rights to the property. Except they weren't equal, were they? Because my parents lived there, and I didn't. Because my parents made the decisions, and I didn't. Because my parents had just disinvited me from Thanksgiving, and I had apparently no say in that either. But legally, I owned 1/3 of their house. I set the deed aside and pulled out another folder. This one was labeled Parents Financial. Inside were bank statements, investment summaries, and a spreadsheet I'd created years ago when my father asked me to help them with retirement planning. They'd been in good shape back then. Dad's pension from 30 years at Con Edison, Mom's Social Security, a decent nest egg from careful saving. But that had been 2015, before my brother's investment opportunity that cost them $80,000, before my sister's legal fees from divorce number 2, before a series of smaller disasters that had quietly drained their reserves. By 20, they were struggling. Not catastrophically, but noticeably. Their savings had dwindled. Their spending had stayed the same. The math didn't work anymore. That's when I'd made them an offer. Let me help, I'd said over dinner at their house. The same dining room table where they'd now decided I wasn't welcome. I'm doing well. Let me give you a monthly allowance. Call it rent for all the years you supported me. Call it whatever you want. My father had resisted at first. Pride, I'd thought. But my mother had talked him into it, and eventually we'd agreed. I'd transfer $5,000 to their account on the first of every month. No strings, no expectations, just help. For 6 years, I'd never missed a payment. Not once. Even when my own finances got tight, even when I had my own emergencies, that $5,000 went out like clockwork. It was automatic, actually. A recurring transfer I'd set up and basically forgotten about. Until now. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. There it was. Transfer to Samuel Caldwell. $5,000, scheduled for December the 1st. And before that, an unbroken line of identical transfers going back 72 months. $360,000. I sat back in my chair, staring at the number. Over $250,000 I'd given my parents over the last 6 years. Money that had paid for their property taxes, their homeowner's insurance, their comfortable retirement lifestyle. Money that had probably funded my brother's trip to Aruba, my sister's deck renovation, the anniversary dinner they'd posted photos of in the family group chat. Money from the daughter who was too difficult to invite to Thanksgiving. I didn't make any decisions that night. I was too angry to trust myself, too hurt to think clearly. Instead, I did what I always do when I'm overwhelmed. I made a spreadsheet. Column A, what they gave me. Column B, what I gave them. I started with childhood, because that felt fair. They'd raised me, fed me, housed me, sent me to college. That counted for something. That counted for everything, really. You can't put a price tag on love, on safety, on the foundation that lets you become a functional adult. But I tried anyway. 4 years at SUNY Binghamton. Approximately $80 in tuition, room and board. 18 years of food, clothing, shelter. Harder to calculate, but using USDA estimates for middle-income families, roughly $230,000, and medical care, piano lessons, summer camps, family vacations. Another $50,000 conservatively. Total investment in my childhood and young adulthood. Approximately $360,000. I stared at that number for a long time. It matched almost exactly what I'd given them back. But that wasn't the whole picture, was it? I opened a new tab and started listing everything else. Every favor. Every time I'd dropped everything to help them. Every invisible contribution that doesn't show up in bank statements. The time I spent 3 weeks helping them sort through my grandmother's estate after she died, handling paperwork and negotiations with buyers while my siblings were too busy. The time I drove 4 hours each way, twice a week for a month, when Dad had his hip replacement and Mom was overwhelmed. The time I spent an entire weekend reformatting my mother's computer after she'd clicked on a phishing link, recovering years of photos she'd thought were lost forever. The time I'd negotiated with their insurance company for 6 hours to get Dad's medication covered, saving them $400 a month. The time, times plural, I'd mediated between my siblings and my parents, playing diplomat, smoothing over arguments, keeping the peace. The career opportunities I'd turned down because they would have required relocating far from family. The relationships that had ended partly because I was too close to my parents. The countless Sundays I'd spent at their house for dinner, maintaining connection, staying involved. How do you calculate the value of being the reliable one? The one who shows up? The one who cares for aging parents, not because you have to, but because you love them? The sun was rising by the time I finished my spreadsheet. My eyes hurt. My back hurt from sitting hunched over my laptop all night. But I had something concrete now. Something I could look at and understand. I'd given them back everything they'd invested in me, dollar for dollar. And then I'd given them 6 years of my time, my expertise, my loyalty, my presence. I'd given them the kind of devotion you're supposed to give family, the kind that doesn't keep score. And in return, I'd been voted off the island. I made coffee, fresh coffee, hot coffee, the kind that actually gets drunk instead of cooling forgotten on counters. I sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop again. This time, I wasn't making spreadsheets. This time, I was reading documents, the deed to their house, the property records for Westchester County. The financial power of attorney they'd given me 3 years ago when Dad had his cancer scare. The beneficiary designations on their bank accounts that listed me as joint owner for estate planning purposes. I'd helped them set all of this up. I'd taken them to lawyers, explained their options, made sure everything was properly structured. I'd done it out of love, out of duty, out of the assumption that we were a family and families help each other. But here's what I'd learned in my years as a financial advisor. Legally, love doesn't matter. Intentions don't matter. What matters is what's written down, what's signed, what's filed with the county clerk's office. And what was written down said I owned their house. Not morally, not in any way that felt right or good, but legally, unambiguously, I was on that deed. I had rights, the same way they'd had the right to disinvite me from Thanksgiving. I didn't call them, didn't text, didn't send a long emotional email explaining how hurt I was or demanding explanations. I'd learnt something about my family over the past 48 hours. They didn't want to hear from me. They wanted me to be quiet, to go away, to stop being difficult. So I decided to give them what they wanted. On Thursday morning, I called Morton, my parents' lawyer. He remembered me, of course. I'd been to his office a half-dozen times over the years for various family matters. "Rachel?" he said. His voice warm with the practiced friendliness of someone who bills by the hour. "How can I help you?" "I need to remove my name from my parents' house deed." There was a pause. I was getting good at reading pauses, at understanding all the things people don't say in the silence between words. "That's a significant decision," Morton said carefully. "Have you discussed this with your parents?" "I'm discussing it with their lawyer. With you. Can it be done?" "Technically, yes. You'd need to file a quitclaim deed removing yourself as an owner. But Rachel, I'd strongly advise you to think this through. Your parents put you on that deed for a reason. They wanted you protected. I understand." "How do I start the process?" Another pause. Longer this time. "You'd need to file the paperwork with the county. I can draw up the quitclaim deed if you'd like, but I really think you should discuss this with your parents first. They may have questions about why. They can ask me themselves," I said. "How much do you charge for the paperwork?" He told me, I told him to proceed. We scheduled an appointment for the following week. After I hung up, I sat very still in my home office, listening to the silence of my house. It's a good house. A house I bought myself, with my own money, through my own hard work. No one gave it to me. No one can take it away. It's mine in every sense of the word. That's more than I could say about my place in my family. Next, I logged into my bank account, found the recurring transfer to my parents, looked at it for a long time. That $5,000 that had marched out of my account like clockwork for 6 years. My cursor hovered over the cancel button. This was the nuclear option. This was burning bridges. This was the kind of thing you can't take back. The kind of thing that changes relationships permanently. But then I thought about my father's voice on the phone. We've all agreed. Not your sister and brother think, or your mother and I have concerns. All. A consensus. A united front against me. I thought about the family group chat. Quiet and conspiratorial. I thought about Thanksgiving dinner happening without me. My chair at the table removed or given to someone else. My name unspoken except maybe as a reference point. It's nice to have a drama-free holiday, someone might say, and everyone would nod, relieved. I thought about the 6 years of 5,000 monthly payments, the 360,000 I'd given them, the exact amount they'd spent raising me, as if our entire relationship could be reduced to a balanced ledger, a debt paid in full. If that's what they wanted, if they wanted to treat me like a line item in a budget, optional and easily eliminated, then I could do math too. I clicked Cancel Recurring Transfer. A dialog box appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this scheduled payment? I clicked Yes. Another dialog box. This will cancel all future scheduled payments to Samuel Caldwell. This action cannot be undone. My finger hesitated for just a moment. In that moment, I thought about calling my mother, explaining, asking if she really agreed with this decision, or if she'd just gone along with my father like she always did. I thought about texting my sister and my brother, asking if they understood what they'd done. But I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I clicked Confirm. The screen refreshed. The recurring payment was gone. Just like that. A 6-year commitment, $360,000 in financial support, erased with 2 clicks. I closed my laptop and went to work. The hardest part about making a decision like that is the waiting. The knowing that you've lit a fuse, but not knowing when it will reach the bomb. The 1st of December came and went. My parents' bank account, for the first time in 72 months, did not receive a $5,000 deposit from me. I didn't tell them, didn't warn them, didn't send a message saying, oh, by the way, I've stopped the allowance. I just let them discover it themselves. The same way I discovered I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving, suddenly, without warning, presented as a fait accompli. On December 3rd, I went to Morton's office and signed the quit-claim deed. It was a simple document, really. Just 1 page stating that I, Rachel Elizabeth Caldwell, hereby relinquished all right, title and interest in the property located at 47 Maple Ridge Road, Westchester, New York. Morton made me read it 3 times. You understand what this means? He asked each time. Once you sign this, you have no legal claim to the property. If your parents sell it, you're not entitled to any proceeds. If they pass away, it goes to whoever is named in their will. You're removing yourself entirely. I understand, I said each time. On the third reading, he set down his pen and looked at me over his glasses. Rachel, I've known your family for 20 years. I'm going to speak frankly. This seems like a decision you're making out of anger. And I understand anger. But in my experience, decisions made in anger tend to be decisions we regret. I'm not angry, I said. Which was true. I'd moved past anger somewhere around the third sleepless night. What I felt now was clarity. Cold, hard clarity about where I stood and what I was worth to the people who were supposed to love me. Then what are you? Done, I said. I signed the document. Morton filed it with the county that afternoon. By December 5th, it was official. I no longer owned any part of my parents' spouse. The property that had been in my name for 8 years, that I'd thought of as a family inheritance, a trust, a symbol of being chosen, gone. And I still hadn't heard from them. No phone call about the missing $5,000, no text asking if there was a problem with my bank, nothing. At first, I thought maybe they hadn't noticed. Maybe they had enough cushion in their account that one missing payment didn't immediately register. But by December 7th, the first of the month payments they relied on that money for, property taxes, insurance, utilities, would have started hitting their account. They would have noticed. They just weren't saying anything. I realized something then, something that hurt worse than the Thanksgiving call. They were okay with this silence. Maybe they preferred it. Maybe having me quietly disappear from their finances, from their property deed, from their lives, was easier than having the difficult conversation about why they'd excluded me. Maybe I'd done them a favor by making myself optional. I went to work, came home, made dinner, watched television, lived my life. And every day, I checked my phone and found nothing from them. The family group chat was still active, but I'd muted it. When I did check it, torturing myself probably, I saw the usual stream of meaningless updates. My sister asking for restaurant recommendations. My brother sharing a meme about football. My mother sending good morning messages with flower emojis. No one mentioned Thanksgiving. No one mentioned me. It was like I'd already been erased. On December 10th, I had dinner with my friend Jennifer, one of the few people I'd told about the situation. We met at a wine bar downtown, the kind of place with exposed brick and Edison bulbs, where you can disappear into a corner booth and say things you can't say anywhere else. Have you heard from them? She asked after I'd explained about the deed and the bank transfer. Nothing. Jesus, Rachel. I know. She sipped her wine, a Pinot Noir I'd recommended, using knowledge my father had taught me during a vineyard trip we took when I was 25, back when he still seemed to enjoy my company. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said. I'm doing nothing. I'm giving them exactly what they gave me, silence. But you're hurt. Of course I'm hurt. But what am I supposed to do with that? Call them and beg to be included? Explain why I deserve a place at their table? Make a case for my own worth to people who've already decided I don't have any? They're your family. Are they, though? Jennifer didn't have an answer for that. Neither did I. We finished our wine and talked about other things. Her job. My job. The mundane machinery of daily life that continues regardless of your private apocalypses. But as I drove home that night, my phone sitting in the cup holder of my car, silent and dark, I kept thinking about that question. Are they my family? Biology says yes. Law, at least law as it had existed until I signed that quitclaim deed, said yes. History said yes. We had shared DNA, shared memories, shared inside jokes and stories, and the kind of knowledge that comes from growing up in the same house. But family is supposed to mean something more than that, isn't it? Family is supposed to be the people who show up for you, who make room for you, who would never hold a meeting to discuss whether you're worth keeping around. Family is supposed to be unconditional. And I'd just learned that my place in mine had been very conditional all along. The call started on December the 14th. I was in a meeting with a client, a couple in their 50s, trying to figure out retirement, when my phone started buzzing. Once, twice, 3 times. I ignored it, keeping my focus on the spreadsheets and projections in front of me, on these people who trusted me with their future. By the time the meeting ended 90 minutes later, I had 17 missed calls, all from my father. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the log. 17 calls in 90 minutes. No voicemails, no texts. Just the same name appearing over and over. Dad, 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 Dad. I was still staring at my phone when it rang again. I answered. "Where have you been?" my father demanded, before I could even say hello. His voice was different than it had been during the Thanksgiving call. Higher, strained, lacking the careful control he'd had when he was delivering bad news. Now he was receiving it. "Working," I said. "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Rachel, what the hell did you do?" I felt ice water run down my spine. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The house," he said. "The deed. I got a notification from the county that there's been a change in ownership. Your name is gone. Did you remove yourself from the deed?" "Yes," I said. Silence. Not the comfortable kind. Not the loaded kind. The kind of silence that comes from genuine shock. From reality reorganizing itself in ways you didn't expect. "Why would you do that?" His voice had changed again. Quieter now. Almost hurt. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I thought it was best," I said, using his own words from the Thanksgiving call Tomon, his own careful phrasing that made unilateral decisions sound like consensus. "Best for who?" "Rachel, you were on that deed for a reason. We wanted you protected. We wanted you to be able to manage things when you're gone," I finished. "Make sure everything is handled correctly. Be the financially responsible one." "Yes, exactly." "Dad," I said. And my voice was very calm, very steady. "Why would you trust me with your house but not trust me at your Thanksgiving table?" Another silence. This one was different. This was the silence of someone who's just realized they've made a terrible mistake, but hasn't yet figured out how to fix it. Those are two different things, Rachel. That's not fair. Isn't it? You told me I was too difficult to invite to a family holiday. You said I bring tension. You said everyone agreed I shouldn't be there. So I figured you probably don't want someone that difficult having legal control over your primary asset. This is ridiculous. You're being difficult, I suggested. "Yeah, Dad. I know." I hung up. My hands were still shaking. My heart was pounding. But underneath the adrenaline, underneath the confrontation, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 weeks. Powerful. He called back immediately. I didn't answer. He called again. 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 I silenced my phone and went back to work. By the time I got home that evening, I had 43 missed calls. Not just from my father now. My mother had called 11 times. My sister, 6. Even my brother, who never called anyone, had tried to reach me twice. The family group chat, muted on my end, had exploded with 78 unread messages. I made myself dinner. Pasta with the good olive oil, cherry tomatoes from the farmer's market, fresh basil from the plant on my windowsill. I poured a glass of wine. I put on music. I did everything slowly, deliberately, creating a ritual of normalcy while my phone vibrated itself nearly off the counter. After dinner, after I'd washed the dishes and put everything away, after I'd changed into comfortable clothes and settled onto my couch, I finally opened the family group chat. The messages were a cascade of panic. Mum, 3:47 p.m. Rachel, your father says you took your name off the house deed. Please call us. Dad, 3:52 p.m. Rachel, this is serious. We need to talk. Sister, 4:15 p.m. What's going on with the house? Dad is freaking out. Mum, 4:23 p.m. Rachel, Elizabeth, please pick up your phone. Brother, 4:30 p.m. Can someone explain what's happening? Dad, 4:01 p.m. Rachel, I don't know what you think you're accomplishing. Xing, but we need to discuss this like adults. And on. Escalating urgency. Increasing desperation. And underneath it all, the unspoken question. How dare you? How dare I what? I wondered. How dare I exercise my legal rights? How dare I make a unilateral decision about my own life? How dare I not consult them before removing myself from something that was ultimately mine to remove myself from? How dare I do exactly what they'd done to me? I didn't respond to the group chat. Instead, I opened a new message, just to my father, and typed, I'm sorry you're upset. I thought it was best for everyone if I stepped back. You'll understand, I'm sure. Talk soon, Chaiju. I read it 3 times before sending it, making sure the tone was right. Polite, but cold. Apologetic, but not sorry. Using his own language, his own deflection, his own way of making terrible decisions sound reasonable. Then I hit send. And I turned off my phone entirely. The next 3 days were strangely peaceful. With my phone off, I was unreachable. Untouchable. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't on call for my family's emergencies, real or manufactured. I went to work. I met friends for drinks. I went to the gym. I read a novel I'd been meaning to get to for months. I existed in a bubble of my own making, and it felt like freedom. But bubbles don't last. On December 18th, Jennifer called my work phone, something she'd never done before. Your family is losing their minds, she said without preamble. Your sister found me on Facebook. She's been messaging me asking if I know where you are. What did you tell her? That you're fine and you'll reach out when you're ready. But Rachel, they're really freaking out. She said something about money. Did you stop giving them money? I hadn't told Jennifer about the monthly allowance. Hadn't told anyone, actually. It felt too personal, too complicated. How do you explain that you've been supporting your parents financially without it sounding either like charity or obligation? I did, I said. I cancelled a monthly transfer. Oh my God, Rachel, how much? 5,000 a month. I've been doing it for 6 years. Silence. Then, Jesus Christ, that's $360,000. I finished. Yeah. They're calling you about money. That's what this is about. Probably some of it, I admitted. The deed, too. I took my name off their house deed. Wait, you were on their house deed? I explained it all then. The whole complicated arraignment, the way I'd been positioned as the responsible one, the trusted one, the one who'd manage everything. The way that trust had apparently been entirely separate from whether I was welcome in their lives. They used you, Jennifer said flatly. They wanted your money and your legal protection, but they didn't want you. That's not, I started, but I couldn't finish. Because maybe it was that simple. Maybe I'd been making it complicated with fillings and history and the weight of family obligation, but stripped down to basics, maybe Jennifer was exactly right. They'd wanted what I could give them. They just hadn't wanted me. What are you going to do? Jennifer asked. Nothing yet, I said. Let them sit with it for a while. That's cold. Yeah, I agreed. It is. But I didn't turn my phone back on. That evening, after work, I did something I hadn't done in years. I drove to my parents' house. Not to see them. Not to talk. I parked 3 houses down, under the shadow of someone else's oak tree, and just looked. The house was exactly as I remembered it. White colonial, black shutters. The porch where I'd sat countless summer evenings. The driveway where I'd learned to ride a bike. Where my father had taught me to change a tire. Where my mother had taken first day of school photos every September for 12 years. The lights were on. Through the front window I could see movement. Figures passing back and forth in what I knew was the living room. My parents, probably. Maybe my sister or brother had come over. Maybe they were all there, having an emergency family meeting. About me. We've all agreed, my father had said. This house was probably where that agreement had been reached. In the living room, or maybe around the dining room table. My family, my blood, sitting together and deciding I wasn't wanted. I wondered what they'd said. How the conversation had gone. Had someone defended me? Had my mother tried to argue for my inclusion? Or had she agreed immediately? Had my siblings needed convincing? Or had they been the ones to suggest it? I would probably never know. And sitting there, watching the house that used to feel like home, I realized I didn't want to know. The details wouldn't change anything. They'd just give me new things to be hurt about. What mattered was the outcome. They'd chosen to exclude me. And I'd chosen to exclude them right back. Except my exclusion came with a price tag. I started my car and drove away. On December 20th, 6 days after my father's first panicked call, I turned my phone back on. It took several minutes to boot up, to connect to the network, to start downloading all the messages and missed calls and voicemails that had accumulated like snow during a storm. The numbers were staggering. 2 missed calls, 47 voicemails, 186 text messages. I sat at my kitchen table and went through them methodically, clinically, like a researcher examining data. The missed calls were distributed like this. Dad, 64. Mum, 23. Sister, 11. Brother, 4. The voicemails started angry and grew increasingly desperate. My father's voice evolved over 6 days, from outrage to confusion to something that almost sounded like fear. The first one: Rachel, you need to call me back immediately. What you've done is completely inappropriate, and we need to discuss it. Call me. The 10th one: Rachel, your mother is very upset. We don't understand what's happening or why you're doing this. Please, just call us back so we can talk. The 20th one: Rachel, we've had some time to think. Maybe we were too hasty about Thanksgiving. Maybe we should have talked to you first. Can we please just talk? The 30th one: Rachel, we need that money. The property tax is due, and we don't have enough to cover it. I know you're angry, but this is serious. Please call me back. The 40th one: Baby, it's Mum. I don't understand what's happening. What did we do? Please talk to us. We love you. Please. I listened to all 47, heard my father's voice crack, heard my mother cry, heard my sister try to be the mediator she'd never been before, heard my brother mumble something awkward about family sticking together, and I felt nothing. That should have scared me. Maybe it did, in some distant way. The absence of feeling was itself a kind of feeling, a flatness, a numbness, like emotional frostbite. When you're cold enough for long enough, you stop feeling the cold. You just feel nothing. The text messages were more of the same. Anger, confusion, pleading. My sister trying to shame me. How can you do this to Mom and Dad? My brother trying to logic me. Whatever happened, this is extreme, just talk to them. My mother sending broken-hearted emojis, and I don't understand. Only my father acknowledged the money. Rachel, the house payment is due. We've counted on that transfer for years. You can't just cut us off without warning. Actually, I could. The same way he'd cut me off from Thanksgiving without warning. The same way they'd all agreed I was too difficult to include without giving me a chance to know there was even a problem. But I didn't say that in my response. I didn't respond at all. Instead, I opened my laptop and wrote something I'd been commising in my head for days. Not a text, not an email. Something more permanent. Something that would create a record. I created a new document and titled it Timeline. Then I started writing. The document I created that night was 47 pages long. I didn't plan for it to be that long. I sat down thinking I'd write a few pages, get my thoughts organized, create some clarity for myself. But once I started, something broke loose. 6 years, no, 38 years, of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who quietly managed everything while receiving no credit, came pouring out. The document was structured chronologically, starting from childhood and moving forward. Each entry was dated, specific, supported by evidence where possible. Age 8, asked for piano lessons. Parents said they couldn't afford it. 6 months later, brother got a new bike and sister got to go to cheerleading camp. Learned that can't afford meant not for you. Age 16, worked part-time at grocery store to save for car insurance. Parents bought sister a used car for her 16th birthday. I bought my own car at 17 with money I'd saved. Age 21, graduated college, summa cum laude. Family came to graduation but left early for sister's engagement party. Spent graduation night alone. Age 24. Got first serious job in financial planning. Told family I'd be happy to help with their finances for free. Dad said they had it under control. 3 years later, discovered they'd lost $80 in brother's investment opportunity and never mentioned it. Age 28. Met Daniel. Fell in love. Thought I'd found my person. Brought him to 3 family dinners. Family was polite but distant. When we broke up, his choice, not mine, no one asked if I was okay. Sister announced her pregnancy 2 days later. Family conversation shifted entirely to that, and on and on. 38 years of small slights, forgotten birthdays, unbalanced expectations, and invisible labor. But the document wasn't just a list of grievances. For each entry, I included context. I included the emails I'd sent offering help, the text messages that had gone unanswered, the family group chat conversations where I was ignored or dismissed, the financial records showing what I'd contributed versus what I'd received. I included bank statements proving the $5,000 monthly transfers. 72 transfers, 6 years, never missed. $360,000 in support I'd given without being asked for, without expecting anything in return, except maybe a baseline of respect. I included the deed paperwork showing when I'd been added, April 2016, and when I'd been removed, December 2024. The 8-year gap when my name had been legally tied to their primary asset, making me responsible without giving me any real power. I included the text message record from Thanksgiving 2023, when I'd volunteered to host and no one responded. The Easter 2024 family chat where I'd mentioned my promotion and received 3 emoji reactions, compared to the 47 messages as celebrating brother's new opportunity, another job he'd be fired from within 6 months. But nobody knew that yet. I included everything. Every piece of evidence that showed what I'd given versus what I'd gotten. Every receipt, literal and metaphorical. And then I wrote a cover letter. To my family. I'm writing this because I need you to understand something. Not because I want an apology. And not because I'm trying to hurt you. But because I need there to be a record. I need to know that somewhere, documented and real, is the truth of what happened. On November 10th, 2024, Dad called me to tell me I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving. He said you'd all agreed. Mum, sister, brother, him. He said I was difficult. He said I brought tension. He said you thought it was best if I sat this one out. I said okay. Because what else was I supposed to say? Please let me come. I promise I'll be less difficult. Should I have begged for a seat at a table where I clearly wasn't wanted? I hung up, and I did what I always do when I'm hurt. I looked at the facts. And here are the facts. 1. I have given you $360,000 over the past 6 years. Exactly the amount you spent raising me. We're even, financially. We've been even for a while. 2. I was on the deed to your house because you wanted someone financially responsible to manage things. But you don't trust me enough to have dinner with you. That's a contradiction I couldn't reconcile. So I resolved it by removing myself from the deed. 3. I have been the reliable one, the responsible one, the one you call when you need something, for my entire adult life. And in return, I've been tolerated, not celebrated, not included, tolerated. 4. You held a meeting about me, about whether I was worth keeping around, and you decided I wasn't. You didn't tell me there was a problem. You didn't try to work through it. You just voted me out. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm voting myself out of this family, or at least out of the role I've been playing in it. I'm taking my name off your assets. I'm taking my money back. I'm taking my time and energy and emotional labor back. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because I'm done being hurt. The attached document shows what I've given over the years and what I've received. It's not complete. How do you quantify things like showing up or caring or trying? But it's enough to show that this isn't a rash decision. This isn't me being dramatic or difficult. This is me finally seeing clearly what our relationship actually is, rather than what I wanted it to be. I'm not asking for your understanding. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you, I'm done. Rachel. I attached the 47-page document. I saved everything as a PDF. And then I sat back and looked at what I'd created. It was devastating. It was thorough. It was the kind of evidence that couldn't be dismissed or argued with. It was my truth, documented and undeniable, and I had no intention of sending it. On December 22nd, my sister showed up at my apartment. I was working from home, a rare luxury, one I'd scheduled specifically to avoid the holiday cheer at the office that I wasn't feeling. I was on a video call with a client when my doorbell rang. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession, the kind of urgent buzzing that says, "I know you're in there." I muted my microphone and went to the door. Through the peephole, I saw my sister standing in the hallway, arms crossed, jaw set in that particular way that meant she was prepared for battle. I didn't open the door. She rang the bell again and again. Finally, she started knocking. "Rachel, I know you're home. Your car is in the parking garage. Open the door." I went back to my office, finished my call, heard my sister ringing and knocking for another 10 minutes before finally giving up. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text. "Fine. You don't want to talk in person? We'll talk like this." What followed was a barrage of messages. "You're being incredibly selfish. Do you have any idea what you're doing to Mom and Dad? They're going to lose the house because of you. Whatever you think they did to you. This is a complete overreaction. You're acting like a child. Family means something. You can't just cut people off because your feelings are hurt." I read through all of them, waited until she was done. Then I typed one message back. "We all agreed. You're not invited to Thanksgiving. That's not me being selfish. That's me hearing your family decision and making my own." 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again, disappeared. Finally, that was Dad's decision. The rest of us just went along with it. I read that message 5 times, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Just went along with it. My sister, the one I'd shared a room with for 8 years, the one I'd covered for when she snuck out in high school, the one I'd held when she cried after her first divorce, had just gone along with excluding me from the family. My brother, who I'd tutored through college algebra, who I'd helped get his first job, who I'd bailed out literally and figuratively more times than I could count, had just gone along. My mother, who told me she loved me in every greeting card and phone call and text message for 38 years, had just gone along. They hadn't fought for me, hadn't questioned the decision, hadn't said, "No, that's too far. She's family, she should be there." They'd just gone along. I typed back. "And that's supposed to make me feel better? That you all thought excluding me was wrong but did it anyway because it was easier than standing up to Dad? That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. "Then, can we please just talk in person? This is too complicated for text." "I disagree. I think it's very simple. You didn't want me at Thanksgiving. I'm giving you what you want. A family without me in it. What's complicated about that? Rachel, please, you're family. We love you. You have a weird way of showing it. We made a mistake, okay?" Dad was stressed about the holidays, and Mom was overwhelmed, and it just seemed easier to keep things small, and we weren't thinking clearly. "So you'll invite me to Christmas?" A long pause. Then, "I don't know. That's not my decision to make." "Exactly," I sent back. "It's never your decision. You just go along with whatever Dad decides. Which means what Dad decides is what the family decides. And Dad decided I'm difficult. So here we are. You're making this so much worse by cutting them off financially. They literally can't afford the house without your help." I stared at that message for a long time. There it was. Finally. The real issue. Not that I was hurt. Not that they'd made a mistake. Not that our family had broken something fundamental. The problem was money. They raised 3 children, I typed. Surely one of the others can help. Neither of us has that kind of money. You both have jobs. You both have houses, cars, vacations. Figure it out. We have our own expenses, Rachel. We can't just give them $5,000 a month. Neither can I lied. Not anymore. What does that mean? It means I've decided to spend that money on myself. On my life. On building something that's actually mine. I'm not the family bank anymore. This is cruel. I almost laughed. Almost. Cruel is holding a family meeting to discuss whether someone is worth loving. Cruel is making your daughter beg to be included. Cruel is using someone for their money while barely tolerating their presence. I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. They need your help. They needed my presence at Thanksgiving. Can't always get what we need. My sister tried a different approach. What if I talk to Dad? What if I can get him to apologize? Would you reinstate the transfer then? No. Why not? Because the money was never contingent on how you treated me. It was a gift. But gifts go to people you want in your life. And you've made it clear you don't want me. So no more gifts. You're punishing all of us for Dad's decision. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. This boundary is going to make them homeless. They won't be homeless. They own a house worth over $1 million. They have options. They just don't like their options. So what are they supposed to do? Not my problem anymore. I could almost feel my sister's frustration through the phone. She tried several more times, pleading, guilt-tripping, logicking. I responded to none of it. Finally, she sent, "I don't know who you are anymore." I typed back immediately. That makes 2 of us. I'm still figuring out who I am when I'm not trying to be who you need me to be. She didn't respond after that. That night, I did something I'd been avoiding. I opened the box. Everyone has one. That box of childhood memories, stored in a closet or attic or spare room. Mine was in my bedroom closet, on the top shelf, gathering dust for the better part of a decade. I'd moved it from apartment to apartment without ever opening it, lugging it like cargo that was too heavy to keep, but too important to discard. I pulled it down, opened it, started sorting through. Report cards from elementary school, all A's meticulously maintained with the teacher's notes. Rachel is a pleasure to have in class. Rachel shows excellent leadership. Rachel is always willing to help. Always willing to help. I'd built my identity on that, apparently. The helpful one. The reliable one. I found photos. Family vacations where I was the one behind the camera more often than in the frame. Birthday parties where I was busy serving cake to guests. Holidays where I was setting the table, cleaning up, managing logistics while everyone else relaxed. In the photos where I did appear, I noticed something I'd never seen before. I was often slightly apart from the group. Not dramatically, just a half step back, a slight angle away. Always present, never quite centered. There were awards from high school, academic achievements, volunteer recognition, leadership positions. None of them had ever been displayed in my parents' house. They'd gone straight from the ceremony to this box, acknowledged and then archived. I found a diary from when I was 14. I'd forgotten about this, forgotten that I'd ever been the kind of person who wrote down her feelings. I opened it randomly and read, "Dad came to Sarah's volleyball game today, even though she's on the bench and barely plays. He said he couldn't come to my debate tournament last week because he had to work. I got third place. He didn't ask how it went." Another entry. Mom bought Sarah a new dress for the spring dance. When I asked if I could get one too, she said I didn't need it because I wasn't going with anyone. I wasn't gone because I hadn't been asked, not because I didn't want to go. But I guess that doesn't matter. And another. Sometimes I think I could disappear, and it would take them a week to notice. They're so focused on Sarah and Chris and all their drama and problems. I'm the easy one. I don't cause problems. Maybe that means I don't matter as much. I closed the diary, put it back in the box, kept going through. I found every birthday card they'd ever given me. I'd saved them all, like the sentimental fool I apparently was. I started reading them, looking for something I couldn't quite name. My 30th birthday card from my parents. Happy birthday to our responsible daughter. We're so grateful we never have to worry about you. Love, Mum and Dad. My 35th birthday. Another year older. Thanks for always being there when we need you. Love always. Last year, my 38th. Happy birthday, Rachel. You make our lives so much easier. I laid out all the cards in chronological order and stared at them. A pattern emerged that I'd never noticed before. Or maybe had noticed, but explained away. They thanked me for being responsible, for being helpful, for making their lives easier, for not causing problems. They never said they were proud of me, never mentioned my accomplishments, never acknowledged who I was beyond what I could do for them. I was a function, not a person, a role, not a daughter. The realization didn't come as a shock, more like a key turning in a lock, a door opening onto a room I'd always known was there, but had never wanted to enter. I'd spent my entire life trying to earn a place in my family, trying to be valuable enough, helpful enough, essential enough that they'd want me around. And I'd succeeded, in a way. I'd made myself essential. But essential isn't the same as loved. Essential means necessary. It means you're valued for what you provide, not for who you are. And the moment I stopped providing, the moment I removed my usefulness from the equation, they panicked. Not because they missed me, but because they missed what I did for them. The money, the security, the management of their lives. They missed the function, not the person. I put everything back in the box, closed it. And this time, instead of returning it to the closet, I carried it out to the dumpster behind my building and threw it away. All of it. The photos, the cards, the report cards, the diary with its teenage heartbreak, the evidence of a childhood spent trying to be good enough. I didn't need it anymore. I knew what it proved. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone by choice, which felt better than spending it alone by exclusion. I made myself a nice dinner, watched movies I'd been meaning to see, took a long bath, went to bed early. It was peaceful in a way holidays with my family had never been. No tension, no managing other people's expectations. No careful navigation of old wounds and ancient grievances. It was lonely. I won't pretend it wasn't, but it was my loneliness, chosen and contained. Better than the loneliness of being in a room full of family and feeling invisible. On December 27th, my phone rang. My father again. I'd been expecting this. The holidays had passed without resolution, and whatever financial crisis my allowance withdrawal had created was probably reaching critical mass. I answered. Rachel. His voice was different than it had been in all the voicemails. Quieter. Defeated, almost. Thank you for picking up. What do you need, Dad? I need to talk to you, in person. Can you come to the house? Why? Because I'm asking you to. Please. The please was what got me. My father didn't beg, didn't ask. He told, he demanded, he expected. Please was a white flag. When? Now? If you can. Your mother and I are here. Sarah and Chris went home. So it would just be the three of us. The original family unit. Before siblings. Before complications. When it was just Mom and Dad and little Rachel. And the world was simpler. Or at least, I'd thought it was simpler. Maybe it had always been exactly this complicated, and I'd just been too young to see it. I'll be there in an hour, I said. I took my time getting ready. Showered, dressed carefully, not too formal, not too casual. Wore the watch my grandmother left me, the only inheritance I'd gotten that hadn't come with strings attached. Put on lipstick, which I never did because I wanted armor, and sometimes makeup is armor. I looked at myself in the mirror before I left. I looked tired, older than 38, but also, somehow, more solid, more real, like I'd been a sketch for years and was finally filling in with color. The drive to their house took 35 minutes. I'd made this drive hundreds of times, for dinners, for holidays, for emergencies real and manufactured. But this time felt different. This time, I wasn't going as the reliable daughter. I was going as someone they'd wronged who had the power to do something about it. I parked in the driveway, not on the street like a visitor, but in my old spot, the one closest to the house. Small act of defiance, maybe. Or maybe just muscle memory. My father opened the door before I could knock. He looked old. That was my first thought. When had he gotten so old? His hair was thinner than I remembered, greyer. His shoulders slumped. He looked like a man under siege. "Rachel," he said, "come in." I followed him through the entryway, past the living room, where I'd played as a child, through the dining room where we'd shared 1,000 meals, into the kitchen where my mother was sitting at the table. She stood when she saw me. Looked like she might try to hug me, then thought better of it. Sat back down. "Coffee?" she offered. "No thanks." We all sat at the kitchen table. The same table where they'd probably discussed excluding me from Thanksgiving. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Thank you for coming," my father said. I waited. "We've been talking," he continued. "Your mother and I. We've been doing a lot of thinking about everything." Still waiting. My mother jumped in. "Rachel, honey, we owe you an apology. The way we handled Thanksgiving was wrong. We should have talked to you first, You should have invited me," I said flatly. "Yes," she agreed. "We should have." "So why didn't you?" They exchanged a look. My father cleared his throat. "Your sister had some concerns. About some things you'd said at Easter, at other gatherings. She felt uncomfortable." "I know what Sarah told you," I interrupted. "What I don't know is why you listened to her instead of talking to me." Another exchanged look. "It wasn't just Sarah," my father said carefully. "Chris had mentioned some things too. And your mother and I had noticed you seemed distant lately. Distracted. Like you didn't really want to be at family events. So you decided to not invite me to solve that problem." "We thought maybe you needed a break," my mother said. "Or we thought maybe you were overwhelmed with work and life and you'd appreciate being excluded, being voted out of the family." "That's not what happened," my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Then what happened, Dad?" "Explain it to me in a way that makes sense." Silence. Finally, my mother said quietly, "We made a mistake." "Yes," I agreed. "You did." "We want to make it right," my father said. "We want you at New Year's. We want you at all the family events. We want things to go back to how they were." "How they were?" I repeated. "You mean where I give you $5,000 a month and manage your estate and show up when summoned and keep my mouth shut when you say things I disagree with?" "That's not fair," my mother said. "Isn't it?" "Let me ask you something. Have you noticed that I haven't been giving you money for the past month?" My father's jaw tightened. "Yes, we noticed." "Did you notice because you missed me? Or because you missed the money? Rachel, it's a simple question. Did either of you call to check on me, to see if I was okay, to ask why the money stopped? Or did you only call when you realized you needed it?" Neither of them answered. "That's what I thought," I said. My father leaned forward. "Rachel, I understand you're hurt. I understand we made a mistake. But what you're doing, cutting us off financially, taking your name off the deed, that's extreme. That's vindictive. Is it, or is it just me finally setting boundaries that should have existed all along?" "We're your parents," my mother said, tears in her eyes. "We raised you, we love you, doesn't that count for something?" "It did," I said. It counted for 360,000 there. It counted for 8 years of my name on your deed, making me legally responsible for this house. It counted for every Sunday dinner I came to, every holiday I helped plan, every emergency I dropped everything for. It counted for a lot. But apparently, it didn't count enough for me to be worth a seat at Thanksgiving dinner. So what do you want? My father asked. What will it take for you to reinstate the transfer? Put your name back on the deed for things to go back to normal? Normal, I said. What's normal, Dad? Is normal you calling me only when you need something? Is normal me being the family ATM and the emotional support and the estate planner, but not being valued enough to have my opinions respected? Is normal me being essential, but not actually wanted? Of course you're wanted, my mother said. Am I? Or am I useful? Neither of them had an answer to that. I stood up. Here's what I want. I want you to sit with what you did. I want you to understand what it felt like to get that phone call, to be told by my own father that the family had a meeting about me and decided I wasn't worth including. I want you to imagine what that does to a person. Rachel, I'm not finished. I want you to think about the fact that I've been giving you $5,000 a month for 6 years. Not because you asked, but because I loved you and wanted to help. And I want you to think about the fact that the moment I stopped giving you money, you panicked. Not because you missed me, because you missed the money. That's not true, my father said. But he couldn't meet my eyes. Dad, you called me 64 times in 1 week. When was the last time you called me even once just to see how I was doing? Silence. That's what I thought, I said again. So here's what's going to happen. I'm not putting my name back on the deed, British. I'm not the estate planner anymore. You have 2 other children. Let them handle it. And I'm not reinstating the monthly transfer. My mother made a small sound, almost a gasp. You'll figure it out, I continued. Sell the house if you have to. Downsize. Get help from Sarah and Chris. Whatever you need to do. But you're not getting it from me anymore. Rachel, please, my mother said. We can't afford to stay here without your help. Then you couldn't afford this house to begin with. You were living beyond your means on my dime. That's not sustainable, and it's not my responsibility. We're your parents, my father said. And for the first time I heard real desperation in his voice. You're my parents, I agreed. But I'm not your retirement plan. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your bank. I'm your daughter. And you forgot that. I walked toward the door. My father followed me. So that's it? He said. You're just going to walk away from your family? I turned to face him. You walked away first, Dad. You just did it while keeping my money. What do you want from us? He asked again, and this time he sounded broken. What will make this right? I thought about that question for a long moment. What did I want? Apology. I'd gotten that sort of half-hearted and conditional. Money back. I'd never expected that. Acknowledgement, understanding, some guarantee that this would never happen again. But none of that would change the fundamental truth. They hadn't valued me until I became expensive to lose. I want you to miss me for who I am, not for what I give you, I said finally. And until you can do that, I don't think there's anything to fix. I left. walked out of the house I'd been paying for, drove away from the family that had decided I was optional, and I didn't cry. Didn't feel much of anything except a strange sense of lightness, like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long that I'd forgotten it was there until I finally set it down. January came with cold and clarity. My parents tried calling a few more times, but with decreasing frequency. My sister sent occasional texts that I didn't respond to. My brother, true to form, disappeared entirely. He'd never been one for emotional heavy lifting. On January the 15th, I got a certified letter from Morton, my parents' lawyer. Inside was a notice. My parents were refinancing their house. They needed to clear the title, needed everything to be clean and unencumbered. Since I'd already removed myself from the deed, this was just formality. Paperwork acknowledging that I had no claim, no interest, no legal standing regarding the property. There was also a personal note from Morton. Rachel, I want you to know that I understand why you did what you did. I've seen a lot of families over the years, and I've seen the way financial entanglement can complicate relationships. What you did was legally sound and, if I may say so, probably emotionally necessary. Your parents are refinancing with a reverse mortgage. It will allow them to stay in the house for their lifetimes. But the bank will own it when they pass. There will be nothing left for anyone to inherit. I thought you should know. Morton, I read the note 3 times. A reverse mortgage. They were borrowing against the house's value, getting monthly payments, living on the equity they'd built over decades. It would keep them afloat financially. It also meant they'd burned through any inheritance and any family legacy, any asset that might have been passed down. The house would go to the bank, and they hadn't consulted me. Hadn't asked if I minded that a home that had been in the family for 2 generations would end with them. They'd just done it, the same way they'd disinvited me from Thanksgiving, the same way they'd made every major decision that affected me without my input. I folded the letter and put it away. Strangely, I felt relieved. The house had always been a symbol of family, of roots, of continuity, but it had also been an albatross, a responsibility I'd never asked for. Now it was just a building, a place where people I used to know lived until they didn't anymore. Not my problem, not my burden, not my inheritance to worry about or fight over or feel guilty about. Just a house. I went back to my life. My real life, the one I'd been neglecting while I managed everyone else's. I started taking that painting class I'd been putting off. Joined a book club. Said yes to drinks with colleagues I'd always turned down because I was busy with family stuff. Turns out, when you're not spending all your emotional energy trying to earn love from people who don't give it freely, you have a lot left over for yourself. I dated. Nothing serious, but I dated. Went out with a teacher named Marcus who made me laugh. Had coffee with an architect named Jennifer, who had her life together in ways that made me feel aspirational. Didn't pursue anything long-term, but enjoyed the fact that I could pursue anything at all without the constant background hum of family obligation. I got promoted at work, senior financial advisor. It came with a raise, more responsibility, more respect. At the team meeting where they announced it, my boss said something I still remember. Rachel has an exceptional ability to help people see their situation clearly and make decisions that serve their future, not their past. I thought about that a lot. Serving the future, not the past. On Valentine's Day, a day I'd always found vaguely depressing. I did something radical. I took myself on a date, went to an expensive restaurant I'd always wanted to try, ordered the good wine, got dessert, sat alone at a table for two with a book, and felt absolutely no shame about it. The couple next to me looked at me with pity at first. The woman kept glancing over like she wanted to invite me to join them, to save me from my apparent loneliness. But by the end of the meal, I noticed her watching me differently, almost enviously. I was reading, eating slowly, savoring everything. Not checking my phone, not waiting for anyone, not wishing I was somewhere else. I was just there, present, alone, but not lonely. As I paid my bill, with money that used to go to my parents, I thought with satisfaction, the woman leaned over. "Excuse me," she said. "I hope this isn't rude, but I just wanted to say, you look so peaceful, so content. I don't think I've ever been that comfortable being alone." I smiled. "It's a learned skill," I said. "Takes practice." She smiled back, a little sadly. Maybe I should practice. Maybe she should. Maybe we all should. Maybe we should learn to be okay alone before we try to be okay with people who make us feel alone even when we're together. On March 3rd, nearly 4 months after the Thanksgiving call that started everything, my phone rang at 2:10 a.m. I'd learned to silence calls at night, but my mother was in my favorites list, and favorites always ring through. Survival instinct from years of being the responsible one, the one they'd call in an emergency. I answered, heart pounding, thinking, hospital, accident, death. "Mom?" "Rachel." Her voice was thick, strange. She'd been crying. "Rachel, I need to tell you something." "What's wrong? Is Dad okay?" "He's fine. Everyone's fine. I've been sitting here awake all night thinking about you, and I need to tell you something." I sat up in bed, fully awake now. "Okay." "You were right." Silence. "About what?" I finally asked. "About everything. About Thanksgiving. About the money. About how we treated you. You were right." I didn't say anything. Couldn't, really. This was so unexpected, so different from every other conversation we'd had, that I didn't trust it. "I've been thinking about it for months," she continued, "ever since you left that day, and I keep coming back to what you said, that we missed the money but not you. And Rachel, the worst part is that it's true." "Mum, no, let me finish. I've spent my whole life being supportive, being the good wife, going along with what your father wanted. When he said we shouldn't invite you to Thanksgiving, I should have said no. I should have fought for you, but I didn't. I just went along, like I always do." She was crying now, really crying, and something in me ached hearing it. "And then when you stopped giving us money, your father was furious. Not worried about you, furious. Like you'd betrayed us. And I went along with that too. I called you and texted you and left voicemails, and all of it was about getting the money back, not about getting you back." "Mum, why are you telling me this at 2 in the morning?" "Because I can't sleep. I haven't been able to sleep right for months. I keep thinking about all the times I chose wrong. All the times I chose your father's comfort over your presence. All the times I let you be the reliable one, the responsible one, the one we didn't have to worry about. And I never realized that meant we weren't taking care of you. She took a shaky breath. I was talking to your Aunt Linda yesterday. She asked how you were doing, and I realized I didn't know. I haven't known for months, maybe years. I know what you do for us, or what you did, but I don't know what you do for you. I don't know if you're happy. I don't know if you're lonely. I don't know if you've met anyone, or if you're still healing from Daniel, or if you've moved on. I don't know you, Rachel, and that's my fault. I was crying now too, silently, tears running down my face in the dark. I'm not calling to ask you to give us money, she continued. I'm not calling to ask you to come back or to fix things. I'm calling to tell you that you deserved better than what we gave you. You deserved to be loved for who you are, not for what you could do, and I failed you. I'm sorry. Mom, I managed. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what we did. And I'm sorry. We sat in silence for a long time, both of us crying, both of us sitting in the dark in our separate homes, connected by a phone line and 38 years of history. Are you okay? I finally asked. Really? I'm okay, she said. The reverse mortgage is helping. We're making it work. It's tight, but we're managing. And Dad? Your father is your father. He's angry at you for leaving, angry at himself for pushing you away, angry at the situation. He doesn't know how to fix it, so he's just angry. Sounds about right. He does miss you, though. He won't say it, but he does. He mentions you constantly. Little things, like Rachel would know how to handle this. Rachel always said we should do it that way, he says. It's like he's finally seeing all the things you did, now that you're not doing them anymore. That's not missing me, I said. That's missing what I did for him. You're right, she said. You're right, and I hate that you're right. Mom, I need to ask you something. Okay. That meeting about Thanksgiving. Did you actually agree that I shouldn't be invited? Or did you just not disagree? Long pause. I didn't disagree. Why not? Because I didn't think it mattered that much. I thought you'd be hurt, but you'd get over it. I thought family was permanent, and we could always fix it later. I didn't realize that sometimes later is too late. It's not too late, I heard myself say. But it's different now. I know. I'm not the same person I was before Thanksgiving. I'm not going to go back to being the one who shows up and helps and keeps quiet about things that bother me. I'm not going to be essential but unvalued. If we're going to rebuild this, it has to be different. I understand. I mean it, Mom. I'm not giving you money. I'm not on the deed. I'm not the family bank or the estate planner or the one who fixes everything. I'm just me. And if that's not enough, if I'm not enough without all the things I do, then we can't fix this. You are enough, she said fiercely. Rachel, you have always been enough. We just didn't tell you that enough. We talked for another hour. Not about anything important, just talking, the way mothers and daughters should. She told me about her book club, about the neighbor's new dog, about wanting to try painting. I told her about my promotion, about the painting class I was taking, about Marcus, the teacher who'd taken me to a comedy show. When we finally hung up, the sky was starting to lighten. I didn't go back to sleep. Just sat in my bed, watching dawn come, thinking about the conversation. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever fully. But it was something. An acknowledgement. An apology. A beginning, maybe, of something different. Or maybe just an ending with less bitterness. Spring came slowly. I'd always loved spring. The way it arrives in increments. A warmer day here, a blooming tree there, the world gradually remembering how to be alive again. My mother called every Sunday, just to talk. Never about money, never asking for anything. Just checking in, asking questions, listening to answers. It was strange at first, uncomfortable even. We didn't have a history of this kind of relationship. But slowly, week by week, it started to feel normal. My father didn't call. I didn't expect him to. Pride is a powerful thing, and my father had built his identity on being the provider, the decision maker, the patriarch. Admitting he'd been wrong would require dismantling something fundamental in how he saw himself. But my mother told me things, little things. How he'd mentioned me at dinner. How he'd asked if she'd heard from me. How he'd started attending a support group for retirees, coping with change, she called it, and had talked about estrangement from adult children. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. My sister and I had lunch in April. She called and actually asked, not assumed, if I'd be willing to meet. We went to a cafe downtown, sat outside in the spring sunshine, and had the most honest conversation we'd had in years. "I'm sorry," she said, before we'd even ordered. "For going along with it. For not standing up for you. For prioritizing my comfort over your inclusion." "Why didn't you?" I asked. Not angry, just curious. "Why didn't you say something?" She looked down at her menu. "Because it was easier. Because I didn't want to deal with Dad being angry or Mom being upset. Because I thought you were strong enough to handle it. And I didn't stop to think that maybe you shouldn't have to." "I'm not that strong," I said. "I know that now." We talked about our childhood, about the patterns we'd fallen into. The way I'd become the responsible one, the fixer, and she'd become the dramatic one, the one who needed fixing. The way those roles had calcified over time until they weren't roles anymore. They were who we were. "I didn't realize how much you were doing until you stopped doing it," she admitted. "All the things you managed, all the ways you held everyone together. We took you for granted." "Yeah," I agreed. "You did. I don't know if we can fix it." "We're having lunch," I pointed out. "That's something." She smiled, a real smile. "That's something." We didn't talk about money, didn't talk about the house or the deed or any of the legal and financial entanglements. We talked about our lives, her kids, my job, her new hobby of gardening, my painting class. We talked like sisters, not like people negotiating a treaty. It was nice. My brother and I didn't reconnect. He sent one text in May. "Hey, sorry about everything. Hope you're good." I replied, "Thanks. I'm good. Hope you are too." That was it. That was probably all it would ever be. And I was okay with that. Some relationships are worth fighting for, some aren't. And the difference is knowing which is which. In June, I got an invitation in the mail. Thick cardstock, Formal script. Samuel and Margaret Caldwell request the pleasure of your company for their 40th wedding anniversary celebration. I stared at it for a long time. They were having a party, a big one from the looks of it. Formal invitation, RSVP card, the whole production. And they'd invited me. No phone call first. No text asking if I'd come. Just an invitation, sent to my address, treating me like a guest they hoped would attend. I called my mother. I got the invitation, I said. Oh, good. The mail has been so slow lately. I was worried it wouldn't arrive in time. Mum, are you sure you want me there? Of course we want you there. Why wouldn't we? Because the last family event I was invited to, I was uninvited. Silence, then. Rachel, that was your father's mistake. Our mistake. It's not happening again. We want you there. Not because we need you there, we want you there. There's a difference. Is Dad okay with this? It was his idea. That surprised me. Really? Really? He misses you. He won't say it directly because he's stubborn and proud, but he does. This is his way of saying it. By sending me a formal invitation like I'm a colleague. By including you. By making sure you know you're part of this family. Even if we've done a terrible job showing it. I looked at the invitation again. My name written in calligraphy. Miss Rachel Caldwell. Not Rachel Caldwell and guest. Not the Caldwell family. Just me, by name, invited as myself. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I'm asking. I went to the party. I bought a new dress. Emerald green. Expensive. The kind of thing I never would have bought before because it seemed frivolous. But I had money now. Money that used to go to my parents that now went to me. And I bought a dress that made me feel beautiful. I went alone. No date, no buffer, just me. The party was at the house. Their house, not mine, I reminded myself. They'd set up a tent in the backyard, hired caterers, the whole production. It looked beautiful. My mother saw me first. She crossed the lawn in heels that were too high for grass, grabbed my hands and just looked at me. You came? She said. I came. You look beautiful. Thank you. She hugged me then. Hard. The kind of hug that says things words can't. I hugged her back. My father was harder. He was holding court near the bar, telling a story to a group of his friends from work. He saw me, faltered mid-sentence, recovered, finished his story. The group dispersed. We stood facing each other, 5 feet apart, strangers who used to be family. Rachel, he said, Dad, I'm glad you came. Mom said it was your idea, to invite me. Of course it was my idea. You're my daughter. I didn't say anything, just waited. There was more coming. I could see it in the way he was struggling with words, the way he couldn't quite meet my eyes. I was wrong, he said, finally. About Thanksgiving, about treating you the way I did. I was wrong, Sharon. It wasn't eloquent. It wasn't enough, not really. But it was something he'd probably never said before in his life, and I could see what it cost him. Thank you, I said. That's it? Just thank you. What do you want me to say, Dad? I don't know. That you forgive me? That we can go back to normal? I don't know if I forgive you yet. And we're not going back to normal. But maybe we can find something new that's better than normal. He nodded, extended his hand. Not for a hug. That would have been too much. Just a hand to shake, like we were sealing a deal. I took it. The party was actually fun. I talked to relatives I hadn't seen in years, answered questions about my life with honesty instead of deflection, danced with my uncle, ate cake, laughed at my father's toast, which was surprisingly self-deprecating. At one point, I found myself standing next to the tent, watching my family celebrate. My parents dancing together. 40 years, I thought. 40 years of marriage that had produced this complicated, fractured, resilient thing we called family. My sister chasing her kids around the yard. My brother talking to cousins I barely remembered. And me, standing slightly apart. Not excluded. Just observing, choosing my distance instead of having it chosen for me. Jennifer, the friend, not the architect I'd had coffee with, appeared next to me with 2 glasses of champagne. How are you holding up? Okay, I said. It's weird being here. I can imagine. Are you glad you came? Yeah, I said, and realized it was true. Yeah, I am. They treating you okay? They're trying. It's not perfect, but it's something. That's all we can ask for, I guess. Something. We clinked glasses, drank. Watched the party continue around us. Can I tell you something? Jennifer said. When you first told me what happened, the Thanksgiving thing, the money, all of it, I thought you were being too harsh. I thought cutting them off was extreme. And now? Now I think you saved yourself. I think if you hadn't done something that dramatic, you'd still be there, still giving, still getting nothing back. Sometimes the only way to fix something is to break it first. That's a depressing way to look at it. Or hopeful. You broke it, but you're here. That means it wasn't broken beyond repair. It just needed to be broken differently. I thought about that. About breaking things. About the deed I'd removed my name from. The monthly payments I'd cancelled. The silence I'd maintained. About 102 missed calls, and the moment I decided I was worth more than what I could provide. Maybe, I said, or maybe I'm just too stubborn to give up completely. That too, Jennifer agreed. As the party wound down, as guests started leaving, and the caterers began cleaning up, my mother found me again. Will you come to dinner? She asked. Next Sunday? Just family dinner, nothing formal. We used to do it every week and then we stopped and I'd like to start again. Whose family? I asked. You, me, your father. Sarah and her family, Chris if he can make it. Just us. And I'm invited. Rachel, you're always invited. I'm sorry we made you think otherwise. I thought about it. Thought about what it would mean to go back to Sunday dinners. To rebuild that routine. Thought about whether I wanted to. I'll come, I said. But I'm bringing dessert. And if anyone says anything that crosses a line, I'm leaving. No drama, no explanation. I'll just leave. That's fair. And I'm not talking about money. Not the house, not the deed, not what I used to give you. That's off the table. Okay. And if Dad, If anyone ever makes a decision about family events without consulting me, I'm out. For good this time. I understand. I didn't fully believe her. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But I believed she meant it in that moment, and that was enough to start with. I went to Sunday dinner. I almost didn't. Changed my mind 3 times on the drive over. Sat in the driveway for 5 minutes before I could make myself get out of the car. But I went. My mother answered the door. "I'm so glad you came," she said. And I believed her. The house smelled like roast chicken and rosemary. The table was set. My father was in the kitchen carving. My sister was already there with her kids. My brother had actually shown up. There was my chair, my place at the table. Like it had always been there, like I'd never been excluded. But I had been, and everyone in that room knew it. We sat, we passed food. We made small talk, careful, polite, navigating around the obvious topics like diplomats in a minefield. Then my father cleared his throat. "Before we eat, I want to say something." Everyone went quiet. "Rachel, I owe you an apology, a real one. Not just, I'm sorry you were hurt, but I'm sorry for what I did, for excluding you from Thanksgiving, for making you feel like you weren't wanted, for treating your contributions to this family like they were expectations instead of gifts. For all of it, I was wrong." He was looking at me now, directly, something he'd been avoiding all evening. "I was angry when you took your name off the deed. Angry when you stopped the monthly payments. And I realize now that I had no right to be angry. You didn't owe us those things. You gave them freely. And we treated them like they were owed. We treated you like a bank instead of a daughter." My sister was crying. My mother was holding my father's hand so tightly her knuckles were white. "I don't know if you can forgive us," my father continued. "I don't know if we deserve to be forgiven, but I want you to know that we see it now. We see what we did. And we're going to do better." "We all are," my sister added. "I'm sorry too, Rachel, for going along with it, for not defending you. You deserve better from all of us." My brother nodded. "Yeah, what they said." I looked around the table. At my family, imperfect and flawed and trying, really trying for maybe the first time. "Thank you," I said, "for saying that. It means a lot." "But," my father prompted, "but I need you to understand something. I'm not the same person I was before Thanksgiving. I've learned to be okay on my own. I've learned that I don't need you in the way I used to think I did. I love you, but I don't need you. There's a difference." "I understand," my father said quietly. "And I'm not going back to how things were. I'm not the family bank. I'm not the estate planner. I'm not the one who fixes everything. I'm just me. And if that's not enough—" "It's enough," my mother said firmly. "Rachel, it's enough. It's more than enough." We ate dinner. It was good. Not magical. There was still tension, still unspoken things, still the weight of everything that had happened. But it was good. After dinner, my father asked if he could talk to me privately. We went to his study, the same room where he'd asked me to be on the deed all those years ago. He closed the door, sat down heavily in his chair, looked old again. I've been going to therapy, he said without preamble. That shocked me. You have? Your mother insisted. After everything happened, after you left, she said I needed to talk to someone. I resisted for a while, but eventually I went. What did the therapist say? He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. A lot of things, but mainly that I've spent my life defining myself by what I provide. My job, my income, my ability to take care of my family. And when I retired, when my income went away, when I needed help instead of providing it, I didn't know who I was anymore. Dad, let me finish. The therapist said I was threatened by you, by your success, by your independence, by the fact that you were providing for us instead of the other way around. It flipped our roles and I couldn't handle it. So I pushed you away, made you the problem, instead of dealing with my own feelings of inadequacy. I never thought you were inadequate. I know that's what your mother keeps telling me. But I felt it, and instead of working through it, I took it out on you. We sat in silence for a moment. I looked at the numbers, he said finally. What you gave us over the years. $360,000. Do you know what that means? It means I paid you back for raising me. No, he said fiercely. It means you gave us more than we ever gave you, because we were supposed to raise you. That was our job, our choice. We chose to have you, to raise you, to invest in you. You didn't owe us anything for that, but you gave us everything anyway. I wanted to help. I know. And we let you help until helping became hurting. Until you were hurting yourself to help us. That's not what parents are supposed to do. What are parents supposed to do? Love their kids unconditionally, support them, make them feel valued for who they are, not what they can do. We failed at that. I failed at that. He pulled out an envelope. This is for you. I opened it. Inside was a check for $5,000. Dad, I don't want your money. It's not my money, it's yours. 1 month's payment back. I'm going to give you one every month until you have all $360,000 back. You can't afford that. The reverse mortgage. We'll figure it out. We'll downsize. We'll cut back. We'll get jobs if we have to. But I'm not going to have you living knowing that you sacrificed so much and got nothing in return. I don't need it back. That's not why I stopped paying. I know, but I need to give it to you. I need to pay you back. Not because you're demanding it, but because it's the right thing to do. Because you're not our retirement plan. You're our daughter. And we owe you so much more than money. But money is something I can actually give. I looked at the check, $5,000, 1 month out of 72. It would take 6 years to pay back. They probably couldn't do it. Probably would stop after a few months when the reality of their finances hit. But the gesture, the intent, that meant something. Keep it, I said, handing the check back. I don't need it. Rachel, I don't need it back, Dad. What I needed was to know that you understood, that you saw what I gave, that you valued it. This, I gestured to the check. This shows me you do. That's enough. You're sure? I'm sure. Put it towards staying in your house. Or take Mum on a vacation. Or just have a cushion. But don't pay me back. We're not a ledger anymore. We're family. Or we're trying to be. He took the check back. His hands were shaking slightly. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For coming back. For giving us another chance. For being better than we deserve." "I'm not that good, Dad. I'm just tired of being angry." "That's pretty good too." We went back to the dining room. The kids were playing in the yard. My mother and sister were cleaning up. My brother was on his phone, avoiding emotional labor as usual. It was family. Messy, imperfect, still healing family. I stayed until evening, helped clean up, played with my nieces, had coffee with my mother on the back porch while she told me about her book club's drama. Normal things, small things, the things that make up a life together. As I was leaving, my father walked me to my car. "Will you come next Sunday?" he asked. "Probably. Text me during the week to confirm." "Okay." "And Rachel?" "Yeah." "I love you. Not for what you do. Just for who you are." I'd waited 38 years to hear that. 38 years of trying to be valuable enough, essential enough, good enough to matter. And finally, hearing it, I realized something. I didn't need to hear it anymore. I already knew I was enough. With or without his validation. But it was nice to hear anyway. "I love you too, Dad." I drove home, made myself dinner, settled onto my couch with a book. My phone buzzed. The family group chat, the one I'd muted months ago and never unmuted. I opened it. "Mum, thank you for coming tonight. It meant the world to us." "Sister, so good to see you." "Brother, yeah, good to have you back." "Dad, see you next Sunday." I didn't respond immediately, just read the messages, thought about everything that had led to this moment. The phone call that excluded me, the deed I'd removed my name from, the money I'd stopped giving, the silence I'd maintained, the 1-2 missed calls, the slow, painful work of setting boundaries and letting people see the cost of crossing them. All of it had been necessary. All of it had been right. Finally, I typed, "See you next Sunday." It's November again. Thanksgiving is next week. I've been invited. Obviously. Explicitly. My mother called 2 months ago to ask if I had plans. If I wanted to host. If I wanted them to host. What I wanted to make. What everyone else was bringing. She asked. She didn't assume. She didn't make plans without me. Small thing maybe. But that's what healing looks like. Small things, done consistently, adding up to something different. I'm going. To their house, where Sunday dinners happen most weeks now. Where I have a chair at the table that's just mine. Where I'm invited because I'm wanted, not because I'm useful. We've found a rhythm. It's not perfect. My father still sometimes reverts to old patterns, asking me to handle things, expecting me to manage details. But now, when it happens, I say no. And he accepts it. Sometimes grudgingly, but he accepts it. My mother and I talk every week. Real talks, not just logistics. She tells me about her painting. Turns out she's good at it. I tell her about my life, about dating Marcus seriously now, about the promotion I'm considering. My sister and I have lunch monthly. We've started a tradition. We meet, we talk about our lives, and we explicitly check in on how we're treating each other. "Are we good?" she'll ask. "Yeah," I'll say. "We're good." My brother is still my brother, peripheral, low effort, but present. He shows up to things now. Not always, but more. And the money? The 5,000 a month I used to give them? They never asked for it back. Not once. They figured it out. Downsized slightly, adjusted their lifestyle, got creative with their finances. They're managing without me, which is exactly how it should be. But here's the thing. I help sometimes now. Not with recurring payments, not with being the family ATM. But last month, when my mother's car needed expensive repairs, I paid for it. And when my father's Medicare didn't cover a medication, I picked up the cost. Because I can. Because I want to. Not because I have to. Not because they expect it. Not because my worth is measured by what I provide. Because I'm their daughter, and they're my parents, and sometimes family helps each other. The difference, the crucial difference, is that now I choose, and they appreciate rather than expect. And nobody's keeping score anymore. I still have the 47-page document I wrote that night. The one detailing everything I'd given, everything I hadn't gotten, the evidence, the case for the prosecution. I've never sent it. Never shown it to anyone. It sits in a folder on my computer, labeled Timeline. A record of a version of our relationship that doesn't exist anymore. Sometimes I open it, read through it, remember how I felt when I wrote it. Angry, hurt, done. I don't feel that way anymore. Not because everything's fixed, not because the past has been erased, but because we're building something new. Something where I'm not the designated giver, and they're not the entitled takers. Something more equal, more honest, more real. I keep the document anyway, not as evidence for a trial that will never happen, but as a reminder of what it costs to set boundaries, a reminder that I'm capable of walking away if I need to, a reminder that love without respect isn't enough. A reminder that I'm worth more than what I can provide. 3 days before Thanksgiving, I get a package in the mail. It's small, wrapped carefully, with my mother's handwriting on the label. Inside is a box, and inside that is something I haven't seen in decades. My grandmother's bracelet. My grandmother, my father's mother, died when I was 12. She'd been the one who really saw me, who asked about my interests instead of my grades, who made me feel like being myself was enough. When she died, her jewelry was divided among the family. I'd assumed my sister got the good pieces. I'd never asked. There's a note with the bracelet. Rachel, your grandmother left this specifically for you in her will. Your father kept it in his safe, waiting for the right time to give it to you. After you left last year, I went through the safe and found it. I was furious. At him for keeping it. At myself for not knowing. There was never going to be a right time. He just couldn't stand the idea of giving you something that didn't come with conditions, with his approval, with his control. I'm giving it to you now. Not from him. From her. From the woman who loved you exactly as you were. Inside the box, there's something else. A letter she wrote to you before she died. Your father kept that too. I think she knew, even then, that you'd need to hear this someday. Love. Mom. My hands are shaking as I open the second envelope. Older, yellowed, sealed with tape that's barely holding. Inside, in my grandmother's distinctive slanted handwriting. My dearest Rachel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope I got to see you grow up, at least a little. Got to see the amazing woman I know you'll become. I'm writing this because I know my son. I know your father. I love him, but I see him clearly. He's a man who measures worth in terms of productivity, success, usefulness. He was raised that way, and he'll raise his children that way too, unless someone intervenes. So here's what I need you to know, dear girl. You are not what you accomplish. You are not what you provide. You are not the sum of your usefulness to others. You are enough exactly as you are right now. I see you, Rachel. I see how you try to be perfect, how you work so hard to make everyone happy, how you think if you're just good enough, helpful enough, responsible enough, they'll see your value. They should see it anyway, without you earning it. That's what love means. If the day comes when you have to choose between being loved and being useful, choose being loved. If the day comes when you have to choose between keeping the peace and keeping yourself, choose yourself. You will feel guilty. You will feel selfish. You will feel like you're failing some fundamental duty. You're not. You're just finally putting your own oxygen mask on first. This bracelet belonged to my grandmother, passed to my mother, passed to me. Now it's yours. It's yours no matter what. Not because you earned it, not because you did something to deserve it, but because you're mine and I love you. Wear it and remember, some things belong to you unconditionally. Some love comes without strings. Some family doesn't need you to be anything other than yourself. I hope you never need this letter. I hope your father learns to love you the way you deserve. But if he doesn't, if the family makes you feel small or insufficient or optional, remember this. You are not optional. You are essential in your own right. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve the gift of your presence. Love always, Grandma. I read the letter 3 times. Then a 4th. Then I put it down and cry. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep you didn't know it existed. Crying for the girl I was who needed to hear this. Crying for the woman I became without hearing it. Crying for the love I lost when she died and the love I've been chasing ever since. But also crying with relief. Because she saw it. Someone saw it. Someone understood what I would need, who I would become, what I would face. And she loved me enough to reach across death to tell me. Some love comes without strings. I put on the bracelet. It fits perfectly, like it was made for my wrist. Maybe it was. Maybe my grandmother knew, somehow, that it would find its way to me when I needed it most. I take a picture and send it to my mother. Thank you for giving this to me. And thank you for the letter. I needed both. She responds immediately. I'm sorry it took so long. Your grandmother was right about a lot of things. I wish we'd listened better. Me too. But we're listening now. That counts for something. Yes, it does. The day arrives. I drive to my parents' house with Marcus in the passenger seat. His first time meeting the family at a major event. I've warned him it might be complicated, might be tense, might involve old wounds wrapped in new effort. Families are complicated, he'd said. Mine too. We'll be fine. When we pull up, my father is in the driveway. He sees me, raises his hand in greeting. Sees Marcus, straightens up, puts on what I call his meeting someone important face. Dad, I say, this is Marcus. They shake hands. My father assesses him the way fathers do, looking for worthiness, for threat, for the measure of a man. So good to meet you, sir, Marcus says. You too. Come on in. Inside, the house smells like turkey and tuffing, and all the traditional things. My mother hugs me, hugs Marcus, chatters nervously about timing and temperatures, and whether she made enough food. My sister is there with her family. My brother with his new girlfriend, first time I'm meeting her. Cousins, aunts, uncles, the house is full. I'm wearing the bracelet. My mother sees it immediately, tears up, doesn't say anything. My father notices, looks away, jaw tight. He knows what it means, that Mum found it, gave it to me, went against his hoarding of family treasures. We gather around the table. It's a tight fit. Extra leaves added, chairs borrowed from neighbors, kids at a separate table. But everyone has a place, including me. My father stands to say grace. We bow our heads. Before we thank God for the food, he says, voice rough, I want to thank the people at this table. Family isn't just blood, it's choice. It's showing up, even when it's hard. It's forgiveness, when forgiveness is earned. It's love, even when love is tested. He looks directly at me. Last year, I made a mistake that almost cost me my daughter. I let pride and fear and stubbornness convince me that I could decide who belonged at this table. I was wrong. I'm grateful, more grateful than I can say, that I got a second chance. My sister is crying. My mother is holding my father's hand. I'm staring at my plate, trying to hold it together. Rachel, my father says, and I look up. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being exactly who you are. It's not perfect. It doesn't erase the past. But it's real. And it's true. And it's enough. Thanks, Dad. I manage. We eat. We talk. We laugh at old stories and make new memories. Marcus fits in easily, charming my mother, debating football with my brother, playing with my nieces. He catches my eye across the table and smiles, and I smile back. This is family. Not the Instagram version, not the Hallmark card version. The real version. Messy and complicated and imperfect and trying. After dinner, my father asks if I'll take a walk with him. We bundle up. November in New York is cold. And head down the street where I learned to ride a bike, where I walked to the bus stop every morning for 12 years, where I grew up thinking I understood what family meant. I've been thinking about something, my father says. That therapist I mentioned, she asked me what I wanted my legacy to be, what I wanted you kids to remember about me when I'm gone. What did you say? I didn't have an answer. I realized I'd spent so much time worrying about what I'd leave you, money, property, assets, that I never thought about what I was teaching you. What kind of father I was being versus what kind of father I wanted to be. We walk in silence for a bit. I don't want to be remembered as the man who valued money over people. He continues, the man who measured love in terms of usefulness. The man who almost lost his daughter because he couldn't see what mattered. Dad, let me finish. I'm not good at this. At talking about feelings, at being vulnerable. I'm good at solving problems and making plans and providing. But that's not what you needed from me. You needed me to see you, to value you, to love you without conditions. You're doing that now, I say. I'm trying. But I lost a lot of time, a lot of years where I should have been better. We can't change the past. No, but I can do better going forward. I can be the father you deserved all along. We've walked a full loop of the neighborhood. We're back in front of the house, where warm light spills from the windows and family waits inside. I'm proud of you, my father says suddenly. I don't think I've ever said that. Not directly, but I am. Proud of your career, your independence, your strength. Proud of the way you stood up for yourself even against me, especially against me. Thank you, I say. And I mean it. And Rachel, that bracelet. Your grandmother was right about everything. I should have given it to you years ago. I was keeping it, thinking I could control when you were ready for it. But you were always ready. I just wasn't ready to let go. It's okay, Dad. It's not, but it will be. We'll make it okay. We go back inside, back to the warmth and noise and life of a family dinner. Back to the complicated work of being related to people you love but don't always like, who hurt you but are trying not to, who are learning how to do better. I look around the table, at my mother, at my siblings, at the man beside me who chose to be here, at the bracelet on my wrist that connects me to the woman who saw me first. This is enough. This, right here. Not perfect. Not what it was, but what it is. And what it is family. Rebuilt, redefined, and finally worth being part of. Later that night, back in my apartment, Marcus asks me the question I've been asking myself for a year. Was it worth it? All of it, the pain, the separation, the 1-2 missed calls. Was it worth it to get here? I think about that. Really think about it. Yes, I say finally. Because I learned something I couldn't have learned any other way. What's that? That I'm enough. Just me, without the doing and the giving and the managing. That I'm worth fighting for, even if I'm the only one doing the fighting. That setting boundaries doesn't make me selfish, it makes me sane. And your family learned something too, Marcus points out. Yeah, they learned that I'm not guaranteed. That love goes both ways. That you can't take someone for granted forever and expect them to stick around. Do you think they'll remember? Long term? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. People slip back into old patterns. But here's what's different now. If they forget, if they start treating me like a function instead of a person again, I know I can walk away. I've done it once. I can do it again if I need to. But you don't want to. No, I don't. I want this to work. I want us to be family in a real way, not just in a biological way. But I'm not willing to sacrifice myself to make that happen. Not anymore. Marcus pulls me close. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. What you did took guts. It took desperation, I correct. It took being hurt enough that changing felt less scary than staying the same. That's what guts are, he says. Being scared but doing it anyway. Maybe he's right. I open my laptop, navigate to the folder labeled Timeline. The 47-page document is still there, untouched, unread except by me. I hover the cursor over it. Think about deleting it, about letting go of that version of the story. But I don't. Instead, I create a new document, call it Timeline 2, and I start writing. On November 10th, 2024, My father called to tell me I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving. It was the worst day of my life at the time. Looking back now, 1 year later, it might have been the best. Not because it felt good, it didn't. Not because I wanted it to happen, I didn't. But because it forced a reckoning. It forced all of us to face truths we'd been avoiding for decades. They had to face what they'd done, how they'd treated me, what they'd taken for granted. And I had to face what I'd allowed, how I'd made myself small to fit into their expectations, how I'd confused being useful with being loved. The year that followed was brutal, but it was also necessary. And in the end, it gave us all something we didn't have before: honesty, boundaries, choice, real love, the kind that exists because people want it, not because they need it. This is not a story about revenge. It's a story about boundaries, about knowing your worth, about the difference between being essential and being valued. It's a story about the fact that sometimes the only way to save a family is to be willing to lose it. And sometimes, when you let go of the family you thought you had, you get back the family you actually need. I save the document, close my laptop. Outside my window, the city lights blur into constellations. Inside, Marcus is making tea in my kitchen. The bracelet catches the light on my wrist. 3 generations of women who knew their worth, who passed it down, who said, "You are enough. Tomorrow, I'll go to work. I'll be excellent at my job. I'll help my clients plan for futures they can't yet see. Sunday, I'll go to family dinner. I'll sit at the table with my place set. I'll be part of something imperfect and trying. But tonight, right now, I'm just here. In my apartment that I earned, with my money that I kept, wearing my grandmother's bracelet that finally found its way home. I'm enough. I've always been enough. And anyone who can't see that doesn't get to keep me. That's the lesson. That's what the 1 or 2 missed calls taught me. That's what cutting them off revealed. That's what walking away proved. You teach people how to treat you. And if the teaching requires walking away, then you walk. Even if it hurts. Even if it's scary. Even if they're family. Especially if they're family. Because family should be the place where you're loved without conditions, valued without strings, wanted without having to earn it. And if it's not, if family is the place where you're used, taken for granted, deemed optional, then you have every right to make yourself expensive to lose. You have every right to say, "This is what I'm worth. Meet me here or don't. But I'm done meeting you down there." Sometimes they meet you, sometimes they don't. Either way, you survive. You thrive. You build a life that doesn't require you to be small or silent or endlessly giving. You build a life where you're enough. And that right there, is worth every missed call, every silent day, every moment of doubt. That is worth fighting for. That is worth everything. Epilogue. To the epilogue. 6 months later, I'm cleaning out old files when I find the document again. Timeline. All 47 pages of evidence. A birth. Of the mathematical proof that I'd been wronged. I open it. Read through it one last time. See the young woman I was. Angry. Hurting. Keeping score because score was all she had. I don't recognize her anymore. Or rather, I recognize her, but I've moved on. grown past, become someone different. I select all, hit delete. Are you sure you want to delete this? The computer asks. I hover over yes for just a moment. Then I click no. I don't need the document anymore. But future me might need the reminder. Might need to remember what it cost to set boundaries. Might need evidence that I survived this, that I can survive anything. So I keep it. Not as ammunition, not as a grudge, just as a memorial to the woman who was brave enough to walk away, and lucky enough to find people who gave her a reason to come back. I rename the file. The year I found my worth. And I move on.